the desire to be part of a group, which I would describe as a herd, is amazing. And the thing is about this parting of the ways and this waking up. What is waking up? It is simply breaking through the program, the perceptual program. People are waking up from the program. The program is there to impose and install a perception of reality, what I call the postage stamp consensus, for an entire lifetime. That's what the education system's about, the media's about, all the rest of it.
Cradle to grave.
From cradle to grave. And this waking up is simply people breaking through the programmed perception, so they start to process information, the same information, in a completely different way, and thus come to different perceptions about what that information means. And of course, the more alternative ways, alternative information, and ways of looking at a situation there are, the more this program perception is going to be challenged and broken up, because people start to see, hey, there's another way of looking at this, and it makes more sense than what I've been told. So this is where the censorship comes in, because a lot of this censorship, I say now, is actually desperation. It's desperation. It's trying to put the genie back in the bottle by suppressing information that's helped people to awaken.
Yeah. It's they're not taking any prisoners with this. It's just all out. They're in a panic. They're really worried that people are going to figure it out. There are people figuring it out, but those people are being, again, disenfranchised with the ability to reach out. YouTube is just crushing. Channel after channel after hundreds, thousands of channels have vanished now. That people, good people, well-meaning, intelligent people, were manning and presenting, men and women, excellent videos, pointing out all of the things that we've been talking about tonight and much more. Heroic people, and they have been squashed. We're going to have to find another way. Now, the other issue is freedom of speech. America is the only country on the world stage that I know of that has a First Amendment, the right to free speech. There's another linkage to that isn't talked about much. The right to free speech is intrinsically related and attached to the right to freedom of thought. When you become afraid to speak something, your mind will stay away from that subject. It's like you get burned on a stove, and you just, rather than go back and do it properly, you just stay away from the stove. It sounds silly, but that's how it works. Take away the right to free speech, and you are going to quash a great deal of freedom of thought. It's going to happen, and they know it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What kind of happens in this process, I would say, is that there's a line that in Orwell's writings about while I can say basically that 2 and 2 equals 4, that it's basically freedom. I'm paraphrasing here. But saying 2 and 2 equals 5 destroys that. And so when you see things like men and women are not biologically different, that is 2 and 2 equals 5. And what we're seeing is the pressure on people to accept or take the consequences of not accepting that 2 and 2 equals 5. Now, the psychological process that then happens is you're saying 2 and 2 equals 4, and you know 2 and 2 equals 4. But then the pressure comes in, so you start to say, or at least accept and not challenge, the fact that 2 and 2 equals 5. What then happens in this psychological process is, to a large extent, for your own self-respect, you start to accept that 2 and 2 equals 5, because you really don't want to face the fact that you are accepting a nonsense out of intimidation of not speaking a truth. And so in the end, you come over through this process and through other psychological means to actually believe what you formerly knew wasn't true. This is the way it works. It's a more extreme version of anything for a quiet life. I'll accept this because I don't want to take the consequences of not accepting it. So the more they can
No,
hand out extreme consequences of abuse, censorship, and marginalization, the more that people will, anything for a quiet life, accept what they're being told to accept. And I would say this, and it's where I'm coming from. I know it's where you're coming from. If you are thinking, if I say this, what are the consequences? When you know saying it is the right thing. If you say, if I do this, what are the consequences? Even though you know doing it is the right thing, then you have given your mind away. You have given yourself away to that whose consequences you fear. And what I say, and people are going to see this, by the way. I've got a book I've just finished, it's about to go to print. People will see when that comes out. I am not interested in questioning what are the consequences of me doing this. They will take care of themselves. My question from a bigger point of view, I would say to anyone who's perusing possible consequences, what are the consequences of you not saying it? What are the consequences of you not doing it? Those consequences, not just for you, but for your kids and grandkids, are far, far more extreme than any short-term consequences you may have for doing what you know to be right and saying what you know to be right now. Forget the consequences. The consequences of not doing it are much greater. Forget the consequences short term. Just say and do what you know to be right.
it's all about using fear of consequences to cow the masses. That's what they do. Quite right. That's a very important point that you've made, and I hope everyone listening will keep that in mind. Do what is right. Don't worry about consequences. Speak your mind. Help those who want to be helped. When you run into somebody who doesn't want to hear it, you might as well not waste your time. Find someone who does want to hear reality, or your version of reality. Find someone who's still got an open mind. They're out there, lots of them. They just need to be connected with. We can't get to them through the mainstream media. We know that. Talk about a dumbing down machine. There it is. Total subservience. And you know, we talked about this gender thing. There's another little thing going on here. I don't want to get into it beyond mentioning it, but little boys are dressing up as what they're calling little drag queens.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite the internet sensation now. Can you imagine, David, what their parents must be like to allow this? It's damn near as evil as buying a 6-year-old a cell phone. You do that to your 6-year-old, and you've lost your child. Goodbye, gone, done.
But that's this drag queen stuff with kids is all part of this, of course, this gender fusion, this gender confusion. That's what it's all part of. In Britain, I don't know whether it's happening in America, but it's certainly in Britain. They're having drag artists go into school to read them stories about transgender themes.
Same here. Same here.
Well, and that's the other thing. You know, I was talking on a media interview in Israel this week, funnily enough, because there's lots of people in Israel who actually do not reflect Benjamin Netanyahu. He was pointing out some of the things that were happening in Israel. And I said, you know, I travel the world all the time. What you're describing in Israel is happening everywhere. And because it's a global agenda, therefore it's happening everywhere. And this transgender agenda is absolutely happening everywhere. And you're absolutely right. Where are the parents? Because there are parents who are challenging this in Britain, but they get attacked by other parents, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If this is happening in school, get them out of school. Get them out of school because you
What is the
you're going to
life of your
lose
child
you're going
worth?
to lose your child. You're going to lose
That's
your
right.
child not just through the cell phone. You're going to lose your child through what they are indoctrinated to believe at school, which is getting more and more extreme. All these things we've been talking about over so many years that are going on and now breaking the surface where they can be seen because they're so blatant, because they have to be. Because if you've been manipulating under the radar to transform human society in a certain way, at some point that transformation has to show itself. Otherwise, you're not going to transform it. And we're now at that point. This is why it's becoming so obvious and so blatant and so extreme. And it's helping to an extent people to wake up because they can't deny it. Well, anyone with a smear of intelligence can't deny what they're seeing in front of them anymore. It's not just a theory.
Not a theory. No, it is burgeoning. And I go back to your earlier statement about two planets. This is a planetary-wide drive, a push, a mass mind conditioning program that's underway now. Everywhere you look, every country, every society, if they're hooked up to the internet, if they've got their it doesn't matter. It's going on everywhere. And I'd like to urge all of you to keep this idea of two planets, one visible, our world, and one that controls us and creates what they want us to see as our world. That's the truth of the bigger picture. Understand that. And read David's books, listen to his lectures. He's been out there for 35 years doing this. I don't know how it was that you saw it all so clearly, but you did, and it's all coming to pass at breakneck speed. Again, when they saw no pushback, or little pushback, or controllable pushback, and when they realized how to create the opposition and run the opposition, they realized total control was in their hands. They had it. They had it done.
Yeah.
Created opposition.
This
Wow.
is the point that so many people miss, is they see some body or some group for something, and they see another person or group against it, and they say, well, they're for it and they're against it. But if you're going to control, say, a football match, it's no good controlling one side. If you want to know what this result's going to be before the first ball is kicked, it's no good being controlling one side. You're going to influence the match. You're not going to know the outcome before it starts, but you control both sides and the referee, and you know the score before the game starts. This is the way they work. So there are so many genuine people, for instance, in the alternative media, as an example, who are trying to get this information out for very genuine reasons. And there are other people in the alternative media who are actually just place people for the controlled opposition of the very force that is behind what they appear to be opposing. And I see this a lot where people have no-go areas where they simply won't go into certain areas that absolutely need to be gone into because they're fundamental to what's happening, but they won't go there.
That's the giveaway.
Yeah, this.
And those people also that appear overnight, they're all of a sudden here. Where did they come from? Doesn't matter. Boy, they're good. So there's another indicator.
Yeah, they appear from nowhere and then often disappear. And you've been on this road along as long as I have. And, when you see what's going on in the world, walking away is not an option. And I see these people, they become flavor of the month for like a year, 2 years or so, and then they disappear. And I'm thinking, where have you gone? What are you doing? You can't just say, oh, this is happening, we must do something about it, and then disappear. People say I talk about some weird stuff, some far out stuff. But how about that chair that you're sitting in isn't solid? How weird is that? this reality is nothing like we think it is.
When I saw what Ike is doing, like, I was a bit jealous on him. Like, wow, look at what this guy's doing.
I don't know if anybody else could do it but him, actually.
We are in a period now where speaking your truth is not just important, it's utterly crucial to where humanity goes from here. The world needs renegades.